But our quantum strategy is built on three strong pillars. The first is research, which Canada has long been leading the way in at our universities. The second is talent, which we have in spades thanks to our well-educated homegrown workforce, but also our ability to attract highly skilled workers from around the world, including through immigration policies like the global talent stream. A number of years ago, about 6 years ago or so, we heard clearly from high-tech businesses across the country that if we could accelerate their ability to bring in top engineers, top researchers from around the world, they'd expand and grow their base in Canada. So we created the global talent stream that allows people to come in 4 or 6 weeks, depending on how quickly we can get it done, and get to work right away. And that advantage of bringing in some of the top minds from around the world is exactly what has been able to lead this quantum revolution here in Canada. And of course, the third pillar is commercialization, so that those leading companies can scale up, create good jobs and economic growth that benefits all Canadians, which of course brings me to why I'm here today. Canada has a tremendous, one-of-a-kind innovation ecosystem that is finding ways to bring quantum technology to market. That's exactly what Xanadu is doing. So today, the federal government is announcing an important investment of about $40 million in Xanadu Quantum Technologies. This will help them build the world's first photonic-based, fault-tolerant quantum computer and scale up their business. Support an expected 530 good, high-paying jobs, and ensure that Canada continues to punch above its weight when it comes to advancements in this tech. The quantum computer Xanadu is building runs off an advanced computer chip that literally computes at the speed of light. And the reason for that is it actually uses light to function. The same way we have fiber optics that manage all our telecommunications, they're actually running light through the computer chips that allows for both high speed and high efficiency crunching of the data. Like I said, we're at the forefront of this technology, and Xanadu is in competition to build the first fault-free quantum computer. And I've said that a couple of times. Why is it so important that we talk about a fault-free quantum computer? We don't really worry about the fault-freeness of our laptops, of our regular computers. Why is it important in quantum? Well, quantum is the holding of simultaneous states at the same time. And quantum functions, quantum waves are constantly collapsing. And if quantum wave collapses, that introduces an error in the system. So you have to do it multiple times and create a linkage so there is redundancy to be able to keep moving with the calculations. It's inherent in the nature of quantum that they're collapsing. So having that fault-free will actually allow you to do the computations that are actually necessary. It's really, really exciting stuff. The other thing that's really exciting that they've done is they've figured out using photonics, so it's using light in the chips, to do most of the part of the computing that's done here without having to be cooled down to absolute zero. The cryogenic freezing of most of the quantum computers is a huge cost and a huge burden, and really challenging for when you're trying to develop them and experiment them. So by focusing on only keeping the quantum, the photonic sensors down near minus 273 degrees Celsius, you can actually have quantum computers that'll fit in standard server racks that businesses and companies use around the world. The idea of being able to package in quantum computing alongside your traditional computers is where that leverage is going to go. And what Xanadu is doing is world-leading and extraordinarily exciting for the future of quantum computing available to businesses around the world. Xanadu a ce qu'il faut.
Xanadu is working with other companies around the world in universities like Harvard and MIT. There's world competition going on currently to develop the first no-fault quantum computer. This is a technology which will change things in a significant way, and it's Canadian-made.
Has a huge potential for our economy and for people. Think about all the trial and error that goes into developing a new medicine, for example. These computers can do complex problem solving that simulates experiments, not only saving costs, but also developing life-saving treatments faster than ever. They can also analyze logistics, which will help us build more efficient and resilient supply chains. They can also help us model climate change, which will help us build a safer future.
This technology will contribute to defining the future. It will allow Canada to become a world leader and to grow our economy. We think that in 2 decades, the Canadian quantum computing industry will represent more than 200,000 jobs.
Where the puck is going. Strategic investments like today will set us up for success in the years and in the decades to come. This creates opportunities today and makes sure we're all building the economy of the future so there are opportunities for future generations of Canadians. This is what building an economy that works for all Canadians looks like. It's what it's about, and it's what we're going to keep doing. Merci beaucoup. Je suis très content maintenant de...
Very happy now to give the floor to Minister François-Philippe Champagne. Thank you very much, Prime Minister.
It's good to be back, I should say, to Xanadu. You know, we were touring and seeing all the employees, and you should see the smile on the face of everyone. Prime Minister, always good to be with you when we're talking about quantum. I must say I'm happy that you're here because, as you could see, the Prime Minister has a lot of passion when it comes to quantum. We've seen your interest, and we've seen it time and time again. But also, I want to say to Canadians and to everyone who's watching, if we are here today, it's thanks to the Prime Minister. His vision around science, technology, and innovation is allowing us to have made significant steps in order to achieve what we're seeing today. And yesterday, as I was flying to Toronto, someone was saying the research of today is the economy of tomorrow. And when I think about quantum, when I think about Xanadu, obviously, you exemplified that. Christian, thank you for hosting us again, I must say. We almost know the name of most of your employees by now on a first-name basis. And you know, I talk about you around the world, almost to everyone. I'm so proud of what you're doing. And I'll say a big secret now. I've given your personal phone number to about hundreds of CEO around the world, and I'll continue. So we're very proud of what you're doing, because when people are talking to me about the future, and they're talking to me about what quantum is about, and an example of Canada's leadership, obviously, Christian, who was an extraordinary leader, comes to mind, and we're doing that. But I want to say thank you to the whole team, and I think you would join me and the Prime Minister here at Xanadu. The company has grown exponentially with high-skilled jobs. It's really thanks to your talent, expertise, and know-how that we can have investments like that today. We've seen touring with the Prime Minister this morning, people coming from about everywhere around the world, I would say, coming here because they know that something is happening in Toronto. They know that something is happening in Canada. And it's good to see that Canada is still that big magnet for talent, where people are thinking about quantum. They know that the future is here. And I know our colleague, the MP for University of Rosedale, Minister Freeland, is giving greetings to everyone here. She would have liked to be with us. And I know how passionate she is also about science. The Prime Minister said it. This is an exciting day for Canada. It's also an exciting day for quantum. A few days ago, as the Prime Minister said, we announced Canada's National Quantum Strategy. And today we're announcing a major investment in Xanadu, a quantum leader and a Canadian champion. And you don't need to take it from me, but if you talk to people around the world about quantum, whether in Washington, in Germany, and Korea, and Japan, you see that the name of Xanadu resonates. As the Prime Minister said just last June, Xanadu achieved what is called quantum computational advantage, or others would call that quantum supremacy. And as the Prime Minister said, this was really quite of an achievement. It was celebrated, I think, in Nature even, in the magazine, as a Canadian champion breaking ground. And I would say that's why you're seeing so much attention and attraction. Xanadu just refinanced, and you see investors from around the world wanting to back Canadian technology. C'est toute là de la puissance de l'informatique quantique, faire en ne rien temps ce que l'on pensait auparavant.
Now, this was thought to be impossible, but Xanadu has done the impossible. Now, Xanadu has made the impossible possible. That's what's interesting about quantum computing. It allows us to do things much more quickly in a fraction of a second.
This is a technology that is making the impossible possible. And Xanadu technology has the potential to really be a game changer in not one industry, but about every industry. Whether you're talking about cybersecurity, and that is really top of mind for our government when it comes to cyber, whether it's about drug discovery, you've seen that we have attracted significant investment. I can think of the mRNA vaccine and Moderna coming on our shore. I can think about the EV batteries. I'll give you one of the best kept secret in the automotive world today is that Xanadu is the only company in the world which has a quantum computer working on battery chemistry. So no wonder where the name of Xanadu is everywhere around the world, because if you want to have the most efficient battery, quantum is a leap forward in terms of R&D. So I would say what you're saying is that is the potential is quite infinite to do things that are probably difficult to even imagine, I would say, Prime Minister. Think about climate change. Prototyping is another place where people are saying, because with quantum, you can prototype new products. Comme on disait, à la fin de point d'innovation, les technologies quantiques vont permettre d'améliorer de façon.
Well, quantum computing will allow us to make huge steps forwards in computing and communication and production of energy and in medication, also in climate change forecasts. So there are infinite opportunities offered by quantum community. It'll also be an economic springboard. We're talking about thousands of new jobs. We're talking about billions in new investment. This is why Canada is investing to be a leader in this area. So it's logical for us to develop Canada's role in this area, but it's a strategic approach as well. That's why last week I put forward our first quantum computing strategy for Canada, and the strategy is backed by $360 million to optimize research, but also to commercialize innovations like the one we're talking about here today at Xanadu. So
talent, but also commercialization. And there's been a lot of talk about that recently, but this morning is a great example. The $40 million we're putting is going to be supporting a project of more than $178 million, and is going to create hundreds of high-skilled jobs in a key sector of our economy. And that will put Canada, or continue to put Canada, forefront of quantum. And this is about jobs. This is about opportunities, about growth. This is, and the beauty of all of that is that Canadians will reap the benefit of that. So I would say to all the workers and the hundreds who will very shortly, I think, join Xanadu, you're helping to guide Canada on its way to becoming a world leader in the economy of the 21st century. So in conclusion, I would say let's seize the moment, let's be ambitious, like I always say, and let us be at the center of the next big technological shift that we're seeing, which is quantum technology. Merci tout le monde. Je passe la parole, Monsieur le Président.
Happy now to take some questions from media.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Merci le Premier Ministre. We have 20 minutes for questions from media. One question, one follow-up. Nous avons 20 minutes pour les questions des médias. Une question, une suivi. And we will begin with the logic. Nous avons commencé avec the logic.
Prime Minister, last May, President Joe Biden ordered all federal departments and agencies to make their systems quantum safe. Your government has announced no such measures. Why not?
Canada, with the CSC, it has some of the strongest cyber defense capabilities in the world, and as you've seen now, we have some of the most advanced research into quantum technology and quantum innovations. We will continue to ensure that we're supporting our communication security establishment to keep everyone safe from a range of cyber intrusions and cyber attacks. There's always much more to do, but we're doing that work.
And Prime Minister, the National Quantum Strategy that you've referenced today directs all $35 million of its procurement funding to a program called Innovative Solutions Canada. That program has spent less in 3 years than you promised to spend in 1. So why give it responsibility for something that's so important to a sector that you say is so important?
We know that there are tremendous opportunities to invest in extraordinary innovation, like companies like Xanadu. We're going to continue to make sure that Canada is at the forefront of quantum technology research and applications and commercialization. That means that there are going to be more good jobs for Canadians. We stand by our quantum strategy because we know how important it is to be building technologies of the future and making sure Canadians are at the forefront of these innovations around the world. And that's why we're going to continue to invest.
Next question.
Mordrani from the Globe and Mail. Numerous experts, including several people who have worked for your government, are now pointing out that the billions of dollars your government has spent on its innovation agenda has not demonstrably improved Canada's tech sector, Prime Minister, or moved indicators such as GDP growth or business investment in R&D. What is your government planning to do to address this?
Despite what people say, we continue to be committed to a high-tech future for Canada. We know that whether it's leading on AI, leading on quantum technology, leading on a range of extraordinary innovative solutions that the world is going to need, Canadian researchers are the best in the world because they're drawn from everywhere around the world. We're going to continue to stand by our investments in research. We're going to continue to make sure that innovative technologies like quantum computing are continuing to evolve and become more available to companies across Canada and around the world. The impact that quantum computing can have from automotive and battery design to modeling climate change, to understanding what the impact new life-saving medicines and technologies could have is something we're going to continue to invest in. There's always more to do, but I'm glad to be here today to announce $40 million of investment in this world-leading Canadian company.
Switching gears a little bit, Prime Minister, the Globe and Mail reported this morning that the two-person company which received the most ArriveCAN contract work actually subcontracted that work to other companies, including multinationals like BDO or KPMG. Why is the federal government paying millions to a two-person company to then hire other companies to do their work? Can't the public service hire the companies directly or perform IT work in-house?
That's exactly the question that I just asked of the public service. Obviously, this is a practice that seems highly illogical and inefficient, and I have made sure that the Clerk of the Privy Council is looking into procurement practices to make sure that we're getting value for money and that we're doing things in a smart and logical way. Of course, during the pandemic, speed was at an essence, helping people quickly was at an essence, but there are principles that we should make sure are sound moving forward. Okay.
Well, this is a question that I've asked myself to the Clerk of the Privy Council. Why was this done? I understand that during the pandemic, everything had to be done more quickly. We developed solutions which were rapid and effective for Canadians. But we now have questions about the procurement of these contracts. So we'll be doing a follow-up to make sure that the contracts were awarded properly and the practices work and will continue to work well in the future.
Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock said over the weekend that if Poland wants to send Leopard 2 battle tanks to Ukraine, Germany would not stand in the way. What does this change about the way the decision-making process in Canada when it comes to supporting Ukraine? Is Canada now prepared to send tanks to Ukraine as the country has asked?
Canada has been one of the countries around the world that has been the most steadfast friend and supporter of Ukraine. We've sent humanitarian aid, we've sent financial and economic aid, and we've sent significant military aid to Ukraine in defending its territory against the illegal and illegitimate Russian invasion. We will continue to be there for Ukraine. We have regular conversations with the Ukrainian leadership and the Ukrainian military to make sure that we're sending them exactly what they need as quickly as possible, and we're going to continue to do that. We have nothing to announce today, but we'll continue to look at how best Canada can help. Le Canada est un des pays qui appuie le plus.
We're one of the countries that's provided the most support to Ukraine from the outset. Humanitarian assistance, economic assistance, and also military assistance directly will continue to be there for the Ukrainian people while they're defending themselves, defending their country and our democratic values against this Russian invasion. We'll continue to work directly with them to see what they need and to accede to their requests. I don't have any announcements to make today.
To asking the Supreme Court on Air France on the preemptive use of the notwithstanding clause, and are you closer to ask Minister Lamiti to go ahead on this?
I've been crystal clear on this for many, many years. I do not think any provinces should be proactively, preemptively using the notwithstanding clause. What they're doing is suspending fundamental rights and freedoms and preventing the courts from even being able to weigh in on that. As a government, we will always stand up for people's fundamental rights and freedoms. We've committed that we are going to engage at the Supreme Court in the current case on on Bill 21, and we're going to continue to look at the best ways to make sure that right across the country, every Canadian has their fundamental rights and freedoms protected.
In French, please. Well, I've always been very, very clear about this. I don't believe that it's a good idea for anybody, any province, any level of government, anywhere in our country, to suspend the basic rights of Canadians in order to prevent courts looking into the issue, as a government will always be there to defend and stand up for the basic rights of all Canadians. This is what I've always said, and this is what we'll continue to do. As I've said, we will be intervening in the case before the Supreme Court on Bill 21. We'll always be there to defend the basic rights of Canadians. Could you tell us what your intervention in the Supreme Court case will look like, in fact? Could you give us a detailed account of that? Well, as a government, Canadians expect me and the government in general to be there to stand up for basic rights here in Canada. This is something that Canadians take very, very seriously. Now, we're currently experiencing a time when basic rights are under attack across the world, and Canadians know that the government is always there to defend their rights and liberties. We've already taken a stand. We've already said that we will be intervening in the case on Bill 21 before the Supreme Court. I've often said that I always deplore any attempt by provinces and territories to use the notwithstanding clause to suspend basic rights without going through the courts. That's not the right thing to do, in my opinion. But of course, this is a position that I've taken with all provinces. It's not an issue of the federal government being against the provinces. No, we're here to defend the basic rights of everyone in our country. Well, your relationship with the provinces seems to have gone better over the past few weeks. Do you think that this intervention in this case might undermine that improvement? No, I think that we're here to work closely with the provinces to make improvements for Canadians. There will be issues that we don't agree with the provinces and territories, but we'll always work in a respectful manner with them, based on the principles and the legislation that govern our country.
CBC News. Do your comments about the use of the notwithstanding clause endanger your healthcare negotiations? And can you answer in English and French, please?
I just answered it in French, but I'm happy to answer it in English as well. The fact is, we will always stand up for Canadians' fundamental rights. This is a principle that this government has. Defending Canadians' rights and freedoms is something I have never backed off on, and it's not aimed at the provinces or even at one province specifically. It's a principle that this government stands by. I will always defend people's fundamental rights and freedoms. That's something that is understood and expected even by my provincial counterparts. But as I've demonstrated many times, we're also able to work together on areas we agree, whether it be on economic investments and growth or whether it be on healthcare. I know Canadians need us to come together to solve healthcare for the medium and long term, and that's exactly what we're working on with premiers right now. We're going to continue to work collaboratively on the things that Canadians expect us to do.
You
You famously said a Canadian is a Canadian is a Canadian. Why did the government fight to not bring back 4 Canadian citizens detained in Syria back to Canada? Will you now follow a court order telling you to do so?
The court ruling just came down on Friday, I believe, and we're looking at it carefully. Obviously, making sure we're defending Canadians' safety and security is always going to be a priority for us, and will continue to be.
Good morning, Prime Minister. Colin DeMello from Global News. Housing Minister Ahmed Hassan recently gave $93,000 worth of communications contracts to a firm that focuses on the food industry and is actually owned by the sister of a senior staffer. Do you think those contracts were appropriate, and what kind of corrective action do you plan on taking?
I know the minister has spoken to this and will continue to answer questions on this. My preoccupation is that rules always be followed, but also that members of Parliament continue to put a priority on connecting and communicating with Canadians. It's a responsibility of any member of Parliament to make sure that they are communicating and connecting with their citizens, and we expect that to be done.
So your preoccupation is that the rules would be followed. What happens if somebody doesn't follow the rules? You didn't really answer whether you think this contract is appropriate or not, and what are you willing to do as the boss to, let the minister know that these contracts may have been inappropriate?
The minister is making sure that he's answering all questions on this, and we're making sure that all rules are followed.
Thank you. That concludes today's press conference. Merci. Ça va mettre fin aux conférences de presse.